Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be making a DIY botanical body oil. It's great for gifting for the holidays, and while it's a very simple process, it does take a couple hours, so it's great to finish up in the afternoon for some gifts. I'm putting together my double boiler. I don't have anything fancy. I'm using a large saucepan with about 1 inch of water in the bottom, along with my ceramic mixing bowl that fits on the top. So I'm going to turn the heat on underneath the water in the pan so I can add my oils to a cold double boiler so it'll gently come up to heat. We don't want to boil them or anything, we just want to heat them enough to let everything infuse. So instead of letting it sit for a month on our windowsill, we can finish this up in the afternoon. As I showed before, I'm using olive oil. I'm also going to use some sweet almond oil, which is really good for your skin. And then I'm going to top it off with some vitamin E oil. That's going to add a little bit of almost like a preservative effect, so it's a little more shelf stable. This still isn't something you're going to want to keep for years on your shelf, but it'll last quite a bit longer with a vitamin E oil. So I'm going to add about half of this bottle to the double boiler of the olive oil. Really, I mean, it's a body oil. I'm not really worried about formulations as much. I'm just using some skin healthy oils. You could also use jojoba. You could use avocado oil. Anything that you like the texture of on your skin would be great to infuse botanicals in. So I'm going to show you, I'm using, I believe, about a tablespoon per pint of oil. Again, it doesn't really matter in this formulation. And then I'm going to be infusing rose petals, and then I'm also going to be infusing chamomile flowers. And again, you could totally pull some dried herbs from your garden this summer. You can pick up something online. Brambleberry and Nurture soaps are great places to find herbs to infuse into your botanicals. Also check Etsy for small shops. A lot of them on Etsy will have different botanicals and dried herbs. That would be great. And of course you can do your own research as to what you want to put in your body oil. I was looking for a calming evening type oil, so this is what I'm using in mine. And then I'm just going to let this sit on the stove for about 90 minutes, and I'll come check on it periodically, usually about every 30 minutes or so. Give it a quick stir, double check that there's still water in the bottom of the double boiler. I did have to top off my water once, but other than that, it just kept going. And you'll notice the oil takes kind of an amber tone. It doesn't become cloudy, it just takes a bit of a darker hue. And now I came back and it's been about 90 minutes, so I'm going to turn the heat off on the stove and let this come a little closer to room temperature before we strain it. I'll leave a link in the description box down below to my blog post, which will have all the instructions written out for you. It'll be easy printable, and then also it'll have the amounts that I used for my recipe today. So I'm just showing turning off the heat, and I'm going to let it sit here for about 30 to 35 minutes and let it just kind of steep with those botanicals. Okay, so here's the fun part. I have my glass bottles I picked up at the craft store, but I'm going to be using my Chemex today to strain the body oil. So I want to strain out all the botanicals that I've been infusing in it. And another option, if you don't have a Chemex or a pour over system, is you could use a French press. It would work rather well. It's already meant to keep small particles out of a main liquid for coffee. So if you don't mind cleaning the mesh strainer on your French press, it would be a great option. However, I love the easy cleanup of the Chemex, which is why I'll be using that today with paper filters. So I'm going to show you how I use my paper filters in my Chemex. So here I'm just going to show you my filters. I'm using just standard Chemex paper filters. If you've used this style pour over filter before, you'll know that there's 3 pieces on one side of the filter and 1 piece on the other, the way it's folded. So I'm going to take 2 filters and I'm going to make one of them opposite of the first. So I have essentially 4 pieces or 4 layers of paper on each side of my filter. Because we're using flowers and petals, they're rather heavy, and so I don't want to run the risk of blowing out the paper filter. So having it a little extra thick really helps us and gives us a little bit of security. I'm just showing here that has 4 sides before placing it in. And I'm going to go over and grab the oil off the stove. One of the good things about using the double boiler with a ceramic bowl is it's really easy to handle. But remember, it still will be warm, even though it's been sitting for quite some time now. And I'm just going to pour that into the top of the container. I know we talked about the French press, but if you don't have any of these coffee systems, another option is to use a colander over a bowl and layer in some cheesecloth. So I put about half the batch in there to get started, and I'm going to show you it starts running nearly immediately. It doesn't strain incredibly fast, but it is a steady flow. And I'm going to add the rest of my batch now. I only gave it about 5 or 6 minutes to get started. If you're liking this content or you'd like to see more tutorials like this, be sure to like the video and subscribe to my channel for more. So at this point, make sure that it's in a place that pets can't knock it over and children can't disturb it. And I would just let it sit there for about an hour or so to make sure we get every little bit of oil out of the infusion. I am going to scrape the bowl. I didn't get a whole lot out of there, but it was worth scraping. Now I'm just going to take my spatula and stir things around. You can tell a lot of the infusion has come through. I'm just going to kind of fluff the botanicals that are in the top of the filter and make sure everything is still moving downward. You can't see so well in the video, but in person you can see there was still some oil collecting around the bottom botanicals. And as long as it's dripping, I'm not going to pull the top off. So I'm just going to let it sit here and continue to strain through until I see no more drips into the bottom of the oil collection. Now let's take a moment and talk packaging. So I'm using these glass bottles, and you're always welcome to put some new botanicals in the bottom of the bottle just for looks. If you're using a pump, something like these rose petals or the chamomile flowers would be really cool looking inside. Plus, then you also have the benefit of it having a long steep. So those would be great options. I'm also going to show you, I have some calendula flowers. Calendula is beautiful in body products, so that would also be great, and it adds a pop of yellow. Whatever you have though would be an option. I'm not going to put any because I'm using these flip top bottles. I don't have to worry about large particles coming through. I am, however, going to add some essential oils that are skin safe when diluted properly. So I'm going to use some neroli and some frankincense for my evening oil, and that'll be in the first jar. So I'm just going to remove the botanicals from top, and then these are my flip top jars. I got these at a local craft store. You can get them for a much better price online. Amazon is a great resource for bottles like this, but also if you happen to be going to a Goodwill or Value Village or another thrift store, that is the best place to find jars. You can find jars that have a lot of character and a lot of life left for very good prices. So if you're a thrifter, I would suggest starting there. And there's my little helper. I'm adding neroli to this infusion, and I added some frankincense as well. I believe I added about 8 drops of each. I'll put all the amounts in the blog post that will be linked in the description. Another benefit of using the Chemex or French press is that it has a spout attached to where you were straining the body oil, so it's really easy to transfer to your containers. For the second batch, I'm gonna use some rosemary. Again, you want to check dilution rates, but I love how rosemary is great for circulation, and so this is great for in the bathroom for massaging for cellulite and other things. And then along with the rosemary, I was pairing some frankincense. And then we're just going to fill this bottle up. And as you can see, the amount that I ended up making was perfect to fill 2 bottles. I have a third bottle I'm thinking I'll make a facial oil with a jojoba base. But really you should measure your oils to make sure you'll have enough for your containers. But the thing I love about these bottles as well is that really wherever you fill them to will look on purpose. So here's the finished product. Of course, I'm going to create some labels for them so I remember which is which. But it took on this beautiful amber tone, and they're ready to gift for the holidays. I hope you had so much fun, and I hope you'll try this for your holiday gift giving season. And I hope to see you soon back on the channel. Thanks for stopping by.